Hi guys, welcome back. This time we're going to look at how to approach the general knowledge section of the CLAT paper. Okay. First and foremost, there are generally around 50 questions in the GK section. Okay, these comprise both static GK questions as well as current affairs. Okay. Traditionally, the general knowledge section has been one of the most scoring sections of the CLAT paper because if you know it, you know it. You can't go wrong. Okay, there's not much guesswork involved. Okay, you should aim at spending not more than 15 to 20 minutes on completing the entire GK section because remember, reading comprehension will take some time. Although that's only 40 questions, that will still take some time. Okay, the English section. Okay, and the legal comprehension, the legal reasoning section will also take some time because there's a lot of reading involved. So the GK section you should look at finishing within 15 to 20 minutes, not more than that. Okay. Now, how do you prepare for the GK section? Basically, building up general awareness or general knowledge is a continuous process. There's no real time to start, so start now. Okay. The CLAT GK section has been a mix of static GK and current affairs questions. There are generally around 15 to 20 static GK questions and around 25 to 30 current affairs questions. Okay, so there are fewer static GK questions, more current affairs questions. Okay, some years CLAT specifically mentioned that the current affairs questions will only be from the past 1 year. Now, while this is not necessarily the case or necessarily mentioned every time, it can be presumed that the questions will generally be from the past 1 year. So for the year before you are appearing for the CLAT exam, basically starting from around February, say for instance for the exam in May 2019, basically from around February 2018, you should have started reading papers regularly. You should have started visiting certain websites, news websites regularly, and keeping up generally with the big issues, the big developments that are happening, especially those that involve the law. Okay. Now, again, a brief breakup of what static GK questions can be like. Indian and world history, around 3 to 4 questions. Geography, around 3 to 4 questions. Arts and literature, around 3 to 4 questions. Personalities, like who won the Nobel or who won the Pulitzer, okay, around 1 to 2 questions. Science and technology, around 1 to 2 questions. Business and economy, around 1 to 2 questions, okay. So this is a brief breakup subject-wise of what static GK questions you can expect. In the current affairs section, you can expect around 5 to 6 international news questions, around 5 to 6 sports and movies questions. From business and economy, you can expect around 5 to 6 questions. Awards and honors, you can expect around 1 to 2 questions. Science and technology, you can expect 1 to 2 questions. Government and politics, you can expect 1 to 2 questions. Okay, so again, this is a subject-wise breakup of the current affairs section of the CLAT paper. Okay, all in all, again, there are around 50 questions that are going to be asked. So how do you prepare for the GK section? First and foremost, go through previous year's papers to get an idea of the kind of questions that are asked in the CLAT paper. Okay, refer religiously to periodicals, magazines, and newspapers. Prioritize the preparation of GK according to your strength areas. Okay, so if, say for instance, you have kept up with, or you are very interested in uh, in technology, in science and technology, then prioritize other areas such as politics. Okay, so basically figure out how well you can buff up the strength of each of your areas in terms of the subject-wise distribution of GK questions. Okay, follow a good news channel, follow all leading online sources for news. Okay, so basically keep up on a very periodic basis with what is happening in news. Okay, take part in online forums that discuss issues related to current affairs. Okay, take as many mock tests as possible. Okay, take as many online mock tests. There are a lot of free online mock tests and available. Okay, stay curious, don't study, instead learn. Okay, so your focus should be on learning, not just studying. Okay, because if you study, you're basically trying to get things by rote. Don't do that. Instead, try and learn. Okay, try and figure out, okay, this happened today, something else happened tomorrow that built up on what happened yesterday, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's how you'll remember better. Okay, recommended reads. The Hindu newspaper is a very good It's basically recommended for everyone, people who are appearing for IAS exams, people who are appearing for any exam where there's a strong GK component. Okay, the Hindu newspaper is, and usually it's been observed that questions tend to come from the Hindu newspaper, from coverage in the Hindu newspaper. Okay, Outlook or Frontline magazine, again, these are periodical magazines that you should look up. Okay, then Pratyogita Darpan, Competition Success Review, Civil Services Chronicle. These are monthly magazines which again give a good roundup of GK. BBC's website is a good source for as an online source for keeping up with GK, with international developments. Okay, so again, these are certain recommended references, okay, that you can look up for GK. And finally, just keep this in mind while answering the GK section, that first and foremost, it may not be possible for you to answer all the GK questions correctly, but attempt all of those that you know. And because there is negative marking, be careful at those that you guess. Okay. However, the differentiator is getting most of the questions right. The differentiator between those who succeed and the rest is getting most of the questions right. Okay. So try your best to get most of the questions right. Okay. Okay, now we'll talk about tackling the legal reasoning section, which is the other big scoring part of the CLAT paper. Okay. First and foremost, there are two aspects to the legal aptitude or the legal reasoning section. One is legal knowledge and the other is legal reasoning. Okay. Now, these are two similar but different things. Okay. Now, basically, the trend over the past few years has been to give greater emphasis to the legal reasoning aspect of the paper rather than legal knowledge. Legal knowledge is more like general knowledge. It's more about what you know. Say, for instance, how many articles there are in the Constitution, or so it's basically more like static GK. Okay, whereas legal reasoning basically involves questions where they give you a legal principle, a factual premise, a hypothetical factual fact situation, and ask you how to apply best that legal premise to the given factual situation. Okay, questions based on legal reasoning don't expect you to have any prior knowledge of the law. However, what is required is for you to practice as many such questions as possible so that you know how to answer these questions. Okay. Now, the legal reasoning section comprises around 25%, that's 50 marks of the CLAT paper. Okay. The choices comprise, the questions comprise a legal principle, as mentioned before, a legal principle and facts with a choice of possible outcomes. Okay, the section doesn't test your legal knowledge, but rather your analytical and reasoning skills. Okay, now again, I should mention here that oftentimes the given fact situation or the given legal principle may not necessarily make sense in the real world, but you will only have to apply the given fact situation, the given legal principle to the given fact situation as is. Okay, don't try and figure out whether it makes sense in the real world or not. Okay, so these are very hypothetical examples. These are very hypothetical situations. So don't look at trying to apply these to the real world. Okay, now application of your own knowledge to a legal reasoning question is thus not advisable. Stick to the given legal principle and the facts in question when searching for an answer. Okay. And an important point is, don't approach the question from the position of a judge deciding a case or a lawyer arguing the merits of a case from a moral standpoint. Just apply the given legal principle blindly. Okay. We will come to example questions which will give you a better idea as to what I mean when I say this. For example, there's this sample question: if you yourself commit a wrong and suffer an injury, then you cannot blame someone else. Okay. Now, the given facts in this question are: Amulya digs a pit in her land but does not put up any signs warning about the pit. Mansa, a poor laborer, on the way back from her field late in the evening, trespasses into Amulya's land and falls into the pit. Can Mansa claim any damages from Amulya? Now, in this, again, you're given a lot of extraneous circumstances, like Mansa is a poor laborer, she's on her way back from the field late in the evening, but the key point is she trespasses into Amulya's land. Okay, thus she commits a wrong. Okay, so she cannot blame. She cannot blame her injury on Amulya. Again, this is another. Let's go through another sample question. Every person has the right to defend his or another person's body or property if there is a reasonable apprehension of danger. Facts: Leela was on her way home late one evening when two men started following her and harassing her. She raised a hue and cry when her colleague Ram, who was passing by, came by to help and got into a fight. Ram, being strong, soon had them begging for forgiveness. As they were trying to flee, Ram picked up a brick lying nearby and hit one of the men on the head. As a result, the man died. Is Ram entitled to the right of private defense? Now, the principle that has been given is basically the principle of private defense. Okay, that is to say, every person has the right to defend their own body or somebody else's body or property if and only if there's a reasonable apprehension of danger. Now, in this case, Ram, when he was facing off against these two people who were harassing Leela, okay, can be said that when he started the face-off, okay, it can be said that there was a reasonable apprehension of danger to him or to Leela's body, okay. But once these two started begging, okay, once they realized that Ram was too strong and they started begging for forgiveness and they were trying to flee, Ram picked up a brick and hit one of the men on the head, okay. So as a result, you can't say that there was a reasonable apprehension of danger at that point of time. As a result, you can't say that Ram is entitled to the right of private defense in this case. Okay, let's go through another sample question. Principle: every person is entitled to freedom of conscience and to profess, practice, and propagate his religion subject to public order, morality, and health. Abdul Karim Khan of Muzaffarnagar slaughtered a cow in the name of religion. At that point of time, there existed an express prohibition on the slaughter of domestic and milch animals. Milch animals are basically milk-giving animals. Okay? His neighbors Ramdeen and Aloknath, who were Hindus, felt that Abdul's act hurt their religious sentiments and instituted a suit against him. Now, in this case, the principle we are given, the principle we are given is that every person is entitled to freedom of conscience and to profess, practice, and propagate his religion subject to public order, morality, and health. Okay. Now, in this case, in a particular region, that is in Muzaffarnagar, there was an express prohibition on the slaughter of domestic and milch animals, that is, on the slaughter of cows. Okay, Abdul Karim Khan still went ahead and slaughtered a cow in the name of religion. Now, the principle we are given is, while there is a freedom of conscience to profess, practice, and propagate your religion, this should be subject to public order, morality, and health. Now, as a result, since there is a prohibition in that particular area on the slaughter of animals such as cows, okay, and this guy still went, Abdul Karim Khan still went ahead and slaughtered a cow, it doesn't matter that Ramdeen and Aloknath's religious sentiments were hurt. Point is, there was a prohibition on the slaughter of milch animals, and this guy still went ahead and slaughtered a milch animal. Hence, he will not be entitled to the protection that is provided under this principle. Okay, so the suit instituted against him will be successful. Okay, so these were a few examples of the kind of questions that you can get, where basically you apply the given legal principle to the fact situation and you answer accordingly. Okay, so it is applying your reasoning, your ability to reason out the correct answer, okay, and get the right answer to the given fact situation. Okay, so basically, how to answer the LR section: get familiar with the pattern of legal reasoning questions in previous year's papers. So go through previous year's papers, get familiar with the pattern of questions that are asked, and get used to being able to answer them as quickly as possible. Okay, there may be questions with more than one principle for a particular given fact situation. So get comfortable with answering such questions. The legal principle may sometimes be couched in very difficult language. Read the facts, read the principle again, and this will help out help you sort out your confusion in most cases. For example, Principle 1. A person cannot claim damages for injury from a risky activity which he voluntarily undertook, knowing full well the consequences that could arise from it in the usual course of events. Principle 2. A master is liable to compensate for acts of his employees or servants done in the course of employment. Okay, these are two legal principles given for one set of facts. Okay, there are two rival companies, Tyndall Steels Private Limited and Jata Iron and Steel Company, that have their offices adjacent to each other. Both the companies provide bus services for their employees that are to be availed from the nearby bus depot. Both the companies have separate buses. One day, Mr. Adhikari, an employee of TSPL, boarded the bus for JISCO employees by mistake. However, on the way home, the bus suffered an accident owing to the driver's negligence, thereby causing injuries to a few employees. Can Mr. Adhikari claim compensation from JISCO for the injuries sustained? Now, in this case, let's take a look again at the principles. Okay. In this case, the second principle, according to the second principle, a master will be liable to compensate for the acts of his employees or servants done in the course of their employment. Here, because the bus was driven by one of the employees of JISCO, according to this principle, JISCO will be liable for the injuries. However, there is another principle: a person cannot claim damages for injuries from a risky activity which he voluntarily undertook. Okay. Now, in this case, no one forced Mr. Adhikari to board the wrong bus. He voluntarily boarded the wrong bus. Okay. As a result, it can be said that he voluntarily undertook the risk that comes with boarding the wrong bus. Okay. So as a result, Mr. Adhikari cannot claim compensation. Although the second principle is satisfied in this case, the first principle is not satisfied. Okay. Thus, Mr. Adhikari cannot claim compensation for the injuries from JISCO. Okay. Let's look at another question. Principle 1. An agent has the right to hold his master's goods in lien until his previous debts are satisfied. Now, in lien, this is a technical term. Okay. However, there's a principle 2 which gives some elaboration as to what a lien is. A lien is a right to hold chattels of a debtor as security against the debtor. Okay. Now again, just to explain, chattels are properties, movable properties. Okay. Now a lien is a right to hold chattels of a debtor as security against the debtor. Principle 3. When a transaction is going on, the goods should be transferred before the payment can be made. Now let's take a look at the fact situation. Inamdar is a sales agent and he specializes in paintings and other works of art. Mr. Valia is interested in an ancient painting of Raja Ram Mohan Roy and Inamdar is aware of the same. He informs Valia that the painting can be procured for a price of £15,000. Mr. Valia agrees to the conditions and hands over the money to Inamdar. For the deal, Inamdar's fees would be £1,000. When he demands his payment from the client Valia, the latter refuses to pay until the painting is handed over to him. Can Inamdar hold the painting with him till the payment is made? Now in this case, first and foremost, the first principle, Inamdar is an agent of Mr. Valia in this case. Okay, so an agent has the right to hold his master's goods in lien until his previous debts are settled. Now in this case, there is a debt to him and he is holding the painting. So it can be said that as an agent, he has the right to hold the lien, okay, as a security against his master. Okay, and however, there's principle 3. When a transaction is going on, the goods should be transferred before the payment can be made. Now, the payment for the goods in this case was the £15,000, okay, for the painting. Now that payment has already been made. Okay, so this principle will not apply. So in this case, the first principle will apply. That is to say that Inamdar has the right to hold the painting with him till the payment is made by Mr. Valia. Okay, so these were some sample questions on the legal reasoning section. We'll go into more detail into how to address questions, how to answer the legal reasoning section in a further video. Okay, well, we'll see you then. Okay, until then, keep practicing and take care. Bye.